A different type of video for you guys with the goal of describing a common fault that I see amongst golfers that I'm coaching and why it leads them to generally underestimate the start line of their breaking putts. So the first thing to explain is the blue line that I've drawn is indicating a straight line from the ball to the hole, and the red line is indicating the line that the ball starts on. And actually in this scenario, both putts are being hit across the same slope. The left hand side is being hit a lot firmer and is a much lower line, and the right hand side is a much higher line. So I guess the first thing to note, maybe this isn't the subject of the video, but the first thing to note is that this breaking putt has quite a large variance in the possible start lines. The low line is much lower than the high line, but both putts hit on these start lines were actually holed. So breaking putts definitely give you options in terms of the speed that you want to hit them and the start line that you're going to hit according to that speed. But those points aside, the main reason for this video is to help you to understand that a lot of golfers that come into my studio are really good at seeing the curve of the ball, especially towards the end of the putt, but actually don't take into account the fact that the ball is curving from the moment it stops skidding. So as a result, I see a lot of golfers that are picturing the curve towards the end of the putt and are aiming a bit too close, if not directly at, the apex of the curve. So to explain that a little bit further, I've used Pro Tracer on both of these putts to show the entire trajectory of the ball in both instances. And to explain what the apex is actually the furthest point away from the blue line, away from the straight line to the hole that is on that curve. So on the right hand side, it's going to be approximately this point. Okay, it's also worth noting that that point on the curve is running parallel to the straight line, and it's going to be approximately this point on the left hand side. And what I see a lot of golfers doing is actually not making a bad attempt at seeing the curve within these areas, but not really understanding that the ball is already curving way before it reaches the apex of that putt. So in these examples, I would see golfers that picture the putt pretty good for the last half or the last third, but then aim too close to that apex. Whereas as you can see, if I get rid of that straight line now, relative to the start line, the ball is curving almost immediately. In actual fact, there's a small skid phase, but after that skid phase, the ball will start to curve straight away. And I think for a lot of golfers, once they understand that the ball is curving for pretty much 90% of its trajectory, they then become better at predicting their start line and actually reading greens. So in summary, it's not really an exact science, but if that's your straight line for either of these putts, and then using the Pro Tracer app, we can see the curve here. But if that is the curve that you are picturing, okay, we cannot aim here. We need to aim quite a decent way, depending on how much the putt breaks, but quite a decent way outside of the apex of that curve. If you can understand that, hopefully you're picturing the putts and the curve of the putts pretty decently already. But if you can understand that, hopefully it'll give you a better idea of how to predict the start line for your putts. You can aim more accordingly, and hopefully you can become better at executing those breaking putts.